a reliable striker. He has been in the past. He hasn't been good in terms of his goal numbers this season, but he's going to be a really important player in the next couple of weeks.
So he does start. West Ham making 6 changes, and it's West Ham who get us underway here on 5 Live, playing from left to right in this first half. Derby win the early throw. They have Wildsmith in goal. The back four of Corey Smith, Curtis Davis, Craig Forsyth and Hayden Roberts. Ahead of them it's Connor Harahan and Max Bird, Jason Knight, as Derby breaking into the penalty area. Here they go early on with Barkhuizen. Good ball across, just cut out on the edge of the West Ham 6-yard box, and West Ham will clear away up towards halfway. Barkhuizen, Collins and Mendes-Lang completing that front three, but Derby almost in immediately, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, and Barkhuizen, and he's played nearly 200 games for Preston. He's really quick, and he's playing out on that left-hand side, and it was just one long ball into the channel. He outpaced the West Ham back line and didn't make the most of the cross, but that's an early warning for West Ham. David Moyes already up off his bench and not happy about something.
Yeah, he doesn't look happy at all, the West Ham manager, as Areola clears over the halfway line for West Ham. Areola in goal for them. The back three of Kera, Ogbonna and Aged. Ahead of them it's Johnson, Souček, Downs and Emerson, with Bowen, Fornals and Antonio up front. West Ham win a throw on halfway, taken by Ben Johnson. And will now play it over the halfway line, looking for that switch to the left-hand side. Well, Chester down as West Ham break forward with Emerson. He's well marshalled though. 2 white shirts surrounding him. One of them belongs to 21-year-old Jason Knight, who has been playing so well, particularly of late in the 6 matches that Derby County have won on the spin. And Derby get a foot in. Nice little bit of skill from their left-back Hayden Roberts, who plays it up towards halfway, and Max Bird, but it's given away by Derby, and here goes Antonio approaching the penalty area. Antonio still going inside the box, shot on the angle. He's claiming he got a touch off Forsyth. The referee says no, and it will be a goal kick to Derby County.
Yeah, it's actually Max Bird just dallied on the ball, and Fornals took the ball off him, slipped the ball to Mikel Antonio, who lacked real conviction with that effort, drove into the box on the right-hand side, and it was a pretty tame effort, which he drove well wide.
So 2.5 minutes played, goalless here at Pride Park as Wildsmith sends the ball over the halfway line. Souček gets a pink boot on it for West Ham. It's under pressure from James Collins, and the pressure pays off. Derby County win the throw, and I think it's fair to say, Chris, it is evident that Derby are very much up for this one.
Yeah, I mean, did we expect anything else? You know, we speak about the pressure being off, but these players will want to take a Premier League scalp, and it's a West Ham team where they've made a few changes. You say their main man Declan Rice isn't playing for them, but they'll fancy this one, especially at home where their form has been very good.
Derby win a throw midway through the West Ham half. Yes, Rice, one of those players on the bench. Benrahma, Paquetá, Sofal as well. As the ball is up towards the West Ham penalty area, it's a poor clearance. Ben Johnson won't reach it, and the throw goes the way of Derby County of League One, sitting 32 places below West Ham in the football pyramid. And the throw taken to the edge of the penalty area. Johnson does get a foot in, helped up towards halfway, and Antonio, who wins the header, nicely worked out to the right-hand side, but well covered at the back by Derby. And Curtis Davis, 37 years young, plays it all the way back to Joe Wildsmith. What a servant he's been to this club.
Yes, he has been, and his leadership and that partnership with Forsyth alongside him will be so important to try and snuff the West Ham forward line out. I mean, different formations. We see Derby 4-3-3 against the West Ham. It'll be a 3-4-3. We'll see Fornals narrow off that left-hand side. Bowen off the right. Antonio as a central striker. Souček in the middle of the park with Flynn Downs. And Souček has been one of those underperformers this season for West Ham.
Yeah, he's really struggled, hasn't he? A lot of debate amongst West Ham fans about whether he should be in the team, but he is in this evening. One of 6 changes that David Moyes has made as Derby work the ball all the way back to Joe Wildsmith, who's been one of their outstanding players. And it's a Derby side that had to completely rebuild in the summer, as you mentioned earlier on 5 Live Drive, Chris. Just 5 senior players contracted as they approached the start of the season because the takeover hadn't been completed. Then finally they were able to sign a bunch of new players, but it's credit as well for the way that they've gelled together as they play the ball out to the right-hand side, cleared away by Emerson.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with Paul Warne coming in, I think Liam Rosini in a sort of interim job. You know, at first he tried to be really expansive with them. They didn't do very well away from home, and Paul Warne has come in and made them a little bit more pragmatic, and you can see he's building something pretty special.
Goalless here, 5.5 minutes played. West Ham in possession just outside their own penalty area as Souček will go all the way back to Areola, takes the touch, well closed down by Collins. Areola clears it up towards halfway. Forsyth gets a foot on it and plays the ball back to Wildsmith inside the Derby penalty area. It's Derby sitting 4th in League One, 8 points off the automatic promotion places, 9 points clear of Peterborough in 7th, so sitting pretty. Forsyth gets a white boot on the ball, sends it over the halfway line towards the West Ham penalty area. Emerson will collect over on that left-hand side ahead of Mendes-Lang, and the ball is played out to Fornals on the left-hand side. A couple of lovely touches so far in this game from Fornals, and that's another one as West Ham sweep forward. Antonio's ball forward though is blocked on halfway, and Forsyth will play it out to the left-hand side, and again they're looking for that run down the left channel of Barkhuizen. West Ham pick it up. Derby wants a free kick in the centre of the park, not given, and here goes Michail Antonio over the halfway line, just slows his run and plays it forward to Johnson down the right hand side, and he's spreading both hands with his palms out, Johnson, and saying, look, you need to give me some options. Finds one in the end from Antonio, who is being marshalled well by Harahan, and wins the throw deep inside West Ham territory.
Yeah, he doesn't mind drifting out in those wide areas, does he, Michail Antonio? Once upon a time he was a winger, now he's a robust centre forward, but he's still good in those 1v1 situations, as Everton found to their cost.
Ball into the area by Johnson, there's no one there, and Curtis Davies rather awkwardly heads that down. Now Davies heads it down, Forsyth gets a foot on it, loops up in the air, Wildsmith claims half a shout from the West Ham players and fans for a back pass. Chris Sutton, he's not in control of the ball there, is he?
Well,
he doesn't know Davies is going to hit it right onto his foot.
I think if I was a West Ham player, I would have been complaining about that, but I'm certainly with you. I mean, there wasn't an intention to loop that back up to your goalkeeper, from 6 yards out.
Ball forward once more from West Ham, picked up by Derby on the right-hand side, and Corey Smith. 8 minutes played, goalless here. Trip to Manchester United in the 5th round will be the reward for the winners at Pride Park this evening, or will go to a replay as Jared Bowen picks it up for West Ham, driving into the penalty area. Bowen, low shot, smothered by Wildsmith.
Yeah, it was Mendes-Lang in the middle of the park, and Flynn Downs just took the ball off and released Bowen, who likes that position on that right-hand side, coming inside on his left foot, and chops inside and 18 yards out straight to the goalkeeper. Should do better.
Here comes Derby down the right-hand side, picked up by James Collins. Oh, lovely bit of skill, took him into the area, took him into the West Ham defence as well though, and Emerson will bring it away down the left-hand side. Ball played in field as West Ham comes centrally. The run is being continued by Emerson down that left, and Curtis Davies comes across to try and check the progress of Emerson, who brings it back centrally to Downs. Squares it out to the left-hand side, and Souček. Derby back in formation now as Harahan will just once again try and check that West Ham progress. They have it on the left-hand side. Here is Souček once more. Derby well organised in formation, frustrating West Ham at the moment as they play it to the feet of Antonio, who holds onto it, good strength, lets fly, blocks on the edge of the area by Forsyth. He didn't know where that had gone. Comes straight back at West Ham as Antonio dinks it into the area. Bowen and Souček get in each other's way, but in the end Bowen gets there first. Flag stays down, finishes low into the bottom corner from close range, and Jared Bowen continues the form that he showed in the win over Everton. He got a brace in that match. He's got the opener early doors at Pride Park. Derby trail West Ham by 1-0.
Yeah, good start from West Ham. David Moyes will be absolutely delighted. And it's Michail Antonio who links up really, really well, but I think Bowen does well because he may have been in an offside position after Thomas Souček made a forward run. A little give and go it was with Mikel Antonio, who looped the ball on the edge of the Derby box over the Derby defence, and Souček just nodded the ball across to Jared Bowen, who was 4 or 5 yards out, middle of the goal. He's not going to miss that, but yeah, touch and go with the Bowen was offside. He let Souček head the ball and he couldn't miss that, and he's in a decent run of form in terms of goals, because the first half of the season simply Bowen didn't turn up.
8 for the season now, 3 in his last 2 games. And as you say, Chris Sutton, as Derby get us underway, David Moyes was very candid, pretty much the same assessment that you've just given there. He was asked specifically about Jared Bowen in his press conference in the build-up to this, and said his goal numbers haven't been acceptable this season. Certainly acceptable over the last couple of games, as Bowen applauds as the ball through won't reach him. He's cleared away by Wildsmith. Interesting, Moyes made the point as well that perhaps the desperation to try and break into that England squad for Jared Bowen was just hanging on him a bit, in David Moyes' words. And in the build-up to the World Cup, the first half of the season, you could almost see that pressure getting to him. And perhaps now the World Cup's gone, of course he didn't make the squad, he's been released a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. A lovely piece of skill there to take the ball down on his chest, loop the ball over his head and Harahan's head and drive on that right hand side. Careless with the pass, but I think he's one of a number of West Ham players who first half of the season simply haven't done well enough, or he hasn't done well enough, and in terms of his numbers are way down. But it's good to see him attacking the 6-yard line and getting himself in the box, and those goals need to come for David Moyes if West Ham want to stay in the Premier League and do well in the Cups.
Derby in possession, trailing by a 0-0. Here is Hayden Roberts cutting in field and playing the ball through to Max Bird. Out to the right-hand side they go now, and West Ham's turn to just slot back into formation. West Ham, who are looking to make it 3 wins out of their last 4, having really struggled in the first half of the season, as Chris just touched on there. Derby come over the halfway line with Bird and send it all the way back to Forsyth. Derby on this 14 or 19 match unbeaten run, depending on how you want to look at it. Depends whether you take penalty shootouts as a defeat, which I do. It's a bugbear of mine. So if you lose it, you didn't draw a penalty shootout, did you? They lost to Liverpool at Anfield in the League Cup. Great result in the 90 minutes in extra time with 0-0. No extra time, of course, but 0-0.
I think most people feel the same way as you, Vicky, but they don't spend all day thinking about it.
It's called preparation, Chris. Talking points. Derby in possession outside their own penalty area. Trailing by a 0-0 here on 5 Live. Out to the left they go with Hayden Roberts. Now in field to Max Bird, who switches the play out to the right-hand side. Emerson gets across quickly as Derby have the players waiting for the ball from Corey Smith. Out to the right-hand side he goes. Mendez-Laing has made the run. Here he is. Picks it up, Nathaniel Mendez-Laing, and pulls the ball back to Curtis Davis. And Derby advancing gradually through the West Ham half, but it's the Premier League side in front as the ball is into the area. Good delivery as the flag goes up on that near side. Well, Mark Hazen is raising his arms in the air and saying, well, I didn't think I was, but it was just over his head in the end anyway.
I think it was James Collins, was it?
James Collins in the centre.
He shouldn't be off. He's looking along the line. There's good play on the right-hand side from Mendez-Laing, who just isolated Agard, left centre-half for West Ham. Drove and got the cross in, looped across to the far post, and it went over Collins' head anyway, but Collins really at the far post is looking along the line there. Shouldn't be offside in that position.
Well, he's another who's been in good form this season, James Collins. 8 goals for the campaign, including the opener in the 3rd round against Barnsley, but it's West Ham who found the opener at Pride Park through Jared Bowen. Out to the right-hand side, go Derby with Corey Smith. Picked up now by Max Bird on halfway and all the way back to Forsyth, just outside the centre circle. another player who's had a storming season for Derby as they look to win promotion back to the Championship under new ownership for the first time of asking. Out to the right-hand side, go Derby now. They work it between Mendes-Lang and Smith, but they've almost given the ball away there. Good defending in the end by Smith, getting back and just making that interception. But it's happened a couple of times in this first half, Chris. Just not able to retain possession sometimes in key areas, and West Ham looking very alert to the possibility of any counter.
Yeah, they've been slightly careless, Derby have, in the middle of the park, but that's a credit to West Ham and the pressure they're putting on Derby. But see the idea from Paul Warne's team, quick switches of play with their formation, trying to get overloads in those wide areas and isolate the West Ham wing backs.
Well, he said before this one, as Derby take this throw on the left-hand side, that they will play the same way that they normally do this evening. They won't go out and try and stay in the game for 60 or 70 minutes, and they've certainly approached it in the way that they're approaching League One this season. Positive, front foot. They're coming forward now. Ball on the edge of the area is cut out by West Ham, and this is where West Ham are dangerous. Over the halfway line they go to Antonio. Tries a bit of skill, doesn't come off, and here goes Jason Knight for Derby, driving forward out to the left-hand side, and Barkhuizen into the penalty area, pulls it back. Knight trying to work the space inside the box, opted instead to go back to Harahan on the edge of the penalty area, and it's a poor ball, and West Ham will bring it away. But before that, lovely bit of play there from Jason Knight.
Yeah, popped it out left. He looks the biggest threat, Barkhuizen does, on that left-hand side. Really pacey player, likes to come in on that right foot, but confident play from Knight. You can see with the Derby backline and Curtis Davies, all of 37 now. As soon as West Ham get on the ball in defence or midfield, he's dropping so early. He's worried about his lack of pace and being exploited.
Forsyth wins a powerful header just inside the West Ham half, sent forward by Ogbonna over the halfway line, but Fornals loses out and it's picked up by Smith. He did have the option, Paul Warne, of bringing in Aaron Cashin. He's back from injury, he's on the bench, another at centre-half who's excelled this season, but Curtis Davies, who had been out injured, then initially couldn't displace Cashin, came in and has played very well over the last two games, as the ball into the penalty area won't quite reach Barkhuizen, and West Ham, Emerson, will try and get it away and does pick it up outside the West Ham penalty area. In field he goes to Soucek now, and Ogbonna. Again, Derby trying to close down, but West Ham bring the ball over the halfway line. Here is Johnson. West Ham leading by a goal to nil here on 5 Live. In fields, Johnson goes to Antonio. We mentioned Antonio's comments in the build-up, saying that nothing is ruled out in terms of his future, and David Moyes pretty firmly shutting that down. But in terms of attitude and application, absolutely nothing untoward this evening.
Yeah, it's a strange place to announce your, in talks with other clubs, or want to get away on a BBC podcast. I mean, there are a lot of good
Sounds. Check it out.
A lot of good podcasts.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Fantasy 606, should we plug that as well? Is that what you were waiting for?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it should be up for an award. I'm sure it will be eventually.
Football Daily, Transfer Gossip Daily, it's all there for you on BBC Sounds. There you go. Chris Sutton's seal of approval. Over the halfway line go Derby. West Ham leading by a goal to nil. 18 minutes gone in this first half here on 5 Live. Derby will play the ball back into their own half, and now here goes Forsyth. Is there any more that Paul Warne can do at this stage, or do you think they've... Well,
you can see frustration from Paul Warne in his technical area. Misplaced pass. I think they've just been a little bit careless when they have been in possession. Their best bet is to get the ball out wide left to Barkhuizen and hope he can produce something. I think, Collins is a central striker. McGoldrick, he's a big miss to them, although he's getting on a bit. He's 35. I think he's a better link man than Collins, and, will come deeper, where Collins will play more up against the centre-half. The centre-halves for West Ham, he's robust and big guy, thrives off crosses, but they'll miss McGoldrick's cleverness, I think, up top.
Yeah, out injured their top scorer, David McGoldrick, not available for Derby this evening as they play it over the halfway line. Here is Knight once more, squares it to Bird, and now Harrahan out to the right-hand side as Derby continue to advance. Emerson having to stand up on the edge of the area. The ball is dinked into the box, cleared away on the edge of the 6-yard box, and the shot driven in. It wasn't a bad effort at all. Well, that's a little better from Derby and Conor Harrahan. Although from distance would have had to be pretty special.
But we have seen him strike them from distance in the past. Wonderful left foot he has got. Don't want to give him too many sighters. He just sat up really well for him. What, he'd been 30 yards out. Right hand side of the box, just cut across it with that wonderful left foot of his. Went well wide in the end.
He's in good form at the moment as well, Harrahan. 6 for the season, but 3 in his last 5 games as Bonner wins the header. Just inside his own half, but the flag has gone up anyway for an offside against Derby, and West Ham will have the free kick. So Manchester United away awaits the winners of this tie. The rest of the 5th round draw, Southampton will be at home to Luton or Grimsby. Leicester hosts Blackburn or Birmingham. Stoke against Brighton. Wrexham or Sheffield United against Tottenham. I've got a feeling if Wrexham go through there, that might be another one for the TV cameras and a bit of Hollywood stardust. Fulham or Sunderland will host Leeds. Bristol City are at home to Manchester City, and Ipswich or Burnley will take on Sheffield Wednesday or Fleetwood as West Ham come down the left-hand side, leading by a goal to nil here at Pride Park midway through the first half as Emerson goes down.
It's a
and
poor
the free
challenge.
kick is given by referee Thomas Bramall, and Emerson has stayed down here, and it will be a yellow card for Corey Smith.
Yeah, I think the referee is right to brandish a card. It was a good driving run from Emerson on the left-hand side, and then he cut back, and Corey Smith, just too eager, dived in and caught Emerson on the ankle, and now he's under pressure. Corey Smith, because when I remember him from his Norwich City days, he was more of a central midfielder then, but out in that right-back role now for Paul Warne's team.
Well, the West Ham medical staff are on. Emerson has stayed down here. Decent position this, though, in terms of the set piece. Midway through the Derby half, on the left-hand side.
Yeah, they haven't... I might be wrong here. I normally am wrong, Vicky, but you think of other seasons, previous seasons with West Ham and their record from set pieces. I can't remember too many goals this season from West Ham, corners and free kicks. I think that's certainly an area that David Moyes will really want to improve on. To see this challenge again from Smith. About a yellow. What do you think, Vicky?
Yep, stands on the back of his
does,
left foot. It's a painful one, but nothing more than a yellow.
Well, we saw, was it Fabinho, on the back of Ferguson, a really poor challenge. I thought that should have been a red card, actually. Yesterday, VAR wasn't working.
No VAR here as West Ham swing the ball into the penalty area. It's easily claimed by Joe Wildsmith, and Emerson is back on the pitch and moving relatively freely.
I think that's annoyed a lot of people that, there's not VAR across the board, and I get the fans who are disgruntled with that. Really do.
Ironic cheers around Pride Park as Barkhuizen goes down, and it will be a free kick to Derby just inside the West Ham half. Would you say then that you almost say, right, it just doesn't come in until the quarterfinals? Because they say, right, Premier League grounds will have it there and not. Is it all or nothing for you?
Absolutely. I think it's all or nothing for most fans. I know that there were Stevenage fans really unhappy about a penalty award. I think it was for Stoke yesterday, and were furious. And by all accounts, Steve Evans saying that the referee was saying to the Stevenage players he got it wrong.
Long free kick into the penalty area. They're all appealing for it. It came in from Harrahan. It's bounced all the way through, and it will be a West Ham goal kick. But I tell you what, they didn't deal with that well there, West Ham.
They didn't. Flighted ball on the diagonal into the box. I think it was Forsyth who got up pretty well. Antonio in and around him, but I thought that was the correct decision.
So West Ham preparing to take this goal kick as David Moyes comes to the edge of his technical area and points at where he wants his players to be, where he wants the ball to go. Derby intercept possession and have it down this left-hand side with Hayden Roberts, but he can't keep it in, and it will be a throw to West Ham. How much pressure do you think David Moyes is still under at the moment, Chris? They've had a mini revival.
Well, watching him in his technical area, it looks like he's going to combust, doesn't he? He's turning round and having a go continuously at his bench. Look, I think it's one of those. I think it's a free kick given away. Daft challenge from Kehrer on Collins. Collins, you know, likes that physical aspect of the game, and he draws the foul. Now this is a good position, but in terms of David Moyes and the pressure he's under, I think he needed that result against Everton. But I also think that West Ham fans, that they need to have a bit of patience with him, a team which have finished 6th and 7th in the last couple of seasons under him. This season it hasn't been great, but blimey, his record should count for something.
Well, he's spoken of the importance of building momentum after that victory over his former club Everton. They have the momentum in this game, 1-0 the scoreline, but Derby have a set piece on this left-hand side. It's whipped in by Harahan, and he will allow it to come back out as it's cleared away by West Ham out of the penalty area, and Harahan will let it bounce out for the throw. Takes it now to the edge of the area. Won't quite run for Jason Knight. And West Ham will clear up towards halfway. Forsyth with the interception. Sent forward by Downs, but Antonio won't reach that, and it's all the way back to Joe Wildsmith. But Jason Knight again causing a few problems in and around that West Ham penalty area. Paul Warne, the Derby boss, saying that if he could come back as a footballer, if he could do his football career again, he would choose Jason Knight. Praised his effort, praised his determination, and still at 21 years old, he's becoming a very important player for Derby County.
So he had to choose a player out of the Derby team then, did he? Or
I don't know. It might have just been more broadly. I'm not sure he was prompted.
Choose Jason Knight over Messi. Yeah.
Well, you never know. Clearly a big fan. It's a question for you. Who would you come back as, Chris? Have a think about that as the ball goes out of play for a West Ham
Probably
throw.
myself, Vicky.
And why not?
Oh dear. Maybe a bit more athletic though.
Version 2.0, Sutton 2.0. Throw to West Ham, just inside the Derby half. 27 minutes gone in this first half on 5 Live. West Ham leading by a goal to nil. Johnson sends it back into the West Ham half, out to the left-hand side. And again, what a key player he is to have back for West Ham in this second half of the season, as Derby intercept with Harahan just midway through their own half, and he sends it back to Wildsmith. I suppose that's it. There are many strands to the West Ham story, and one of them is the injuries that they have suffered, a couple of key ones, and missing Aguerd for the first half of the season. Yeah. He then went to the World Cup with Morocco and did so excellently well. Hasn't helped.
No, it hasn't, and it's good to see him get a run of games. I thought he really impressed against Everton, but he had issues all pre-season. I'm not making excuses for David Moyes, but that centre-half position has been a major problem all season. And then Scamacca hasn't really worked out. Italian centre forward, hasn't got his numbers.
Johnson with the throw, looking for West Ham's goal scorer Jared Bowen. It's cleared away by Harahan, and out of play for a throw to West Ham. Yes, the centre half position. Of course, Craig Dawson's gone to Wolves as well in January. It is a challenge, although West Ham have a lot of defenders that can fill in those sort of positions, even if it's not their primary position. And again, certainly those staying fit will be key for them in this second half of the season as they look to pull clear of the relegation zone. Souček wins the header, bravely so, in the centre of the park, but Max Bird slides in, wins the ball back, kicks it into Antonio. Would have been a harsh handball, and referee Thomas Bramall agrees as West Ham spread the ball out to the left-hand side. Antonio's on the move in the penalty area. Emerson will check and send it back to Downs, who squares it to Souček, and Downs once more gets a shove in the back from Jason Knight, but he's done well there, Flynn Downs, Plays it to Souček once more and out to the right-hand side. Lovely ball. Lovely control as well from Johnson. This is good play from West Ham. Bowen's delivery and takes the nick off Forsyth, and Wildsmith claims.
Yeah, they haven't linked up well enough. I know they've got the noses in front, West Ham, but I think in the final third it hasn't been really slick and fluent. A little bit of evidence there that it may come from Johnson and Bowen, but I don't think David Moyes will be overly happy with the level of performance. He'll be happy as teams in front, of course, but they haven't been at their best.
Collins won't control for Derby, and it's thumped over the halfway line by Johnson. Antonio on the spin, bounced off his shoulder, and Curtis Davies just gets enough on that and sends it back to Wild. So if you have to say at the other end, though, Areola's had very, very little to do.
Yeah, he hasn't been tested at all, and that will be the one satisfaction for David Moyes. Haven't really been threatened, but Nygaard giving the free kick away against Collins once again. And an opportunity for Derby to get the centre-halves forward. Well, Forsyth is going forward, Davies is as well.
So Harahan over this for Derby, just outside the centre circle, as Chris touched on there. James Collins really putting himself about the striker. Good performance so far from him, coming in for the injured David McGoldrick, but his side trail 1-0. And we are over the half-hour mark, 31 minutes played at Pride Park. What can Harahan do with this? His last delivery caused a bit of consternation in the West Ham penalty area. It's high, it's looping once again, and this time Areola comes and claims decisively.
It's probably 45 yards out there from the middle of the pitch. I'm surprised that Harahan and Derby didn't try and work an angle there. Centre-half's going forward to get a cross in from one of the wide areas and floated the ball too much, and Areola found himself having something to do, which doesn't happen very often in this half.
Emerson's ball forward towards Antonio is cut out. West Ham send it back to Aguerd, who thumps it high over the halfway line. Forsyth wins the header, flicked on by Barkhuizen, brought down by Collins just outside the area. Good fitting by Ogbonna, and Ben Johnson under pressure plays it out to Pablo Fornals, who tries to find Bowen on the right-hand side. Forsyth reads it well. Now over the top he goes down the left to Barkhuizen. Early ball in. Collins on the volley on the edge of the area. It's wide. It was good technique, but it's off target.
Yeah, it's a lovely pass from Forsyth, actually. Over near the left-hand touchline, just lifted the ball over Kira's head to Barkhuizen, who has been the biggest threat for Derby County, who in turn found Collins, who is 18 yards out, and the ball up around hip height, gets that left hip up nice and high, but sliced the volley well wide.
So cleared away by Areola. Derby 0, West Ham 1 on 5 Live. A trip to Manchester United awaits the winners in the FA Cup 5th round. Incidentally, the key tie in the women's FA Cup 5th round, draw made for that today, Arsenal against Chelsea. That will be a cracker. Antonio over the top looking for Bowen. Flag goes up. He's picked it up on the right-hand side of the penalty area. Nice control, but can't beat the official on that occasion.
No, he went too early. And do you know what? That run from Jared Bowen, we saw, so much of those runs in behind last season. There's been times tonight where he's had the opportunity when the West Ham midfield have been in control of the ball, and Derby have had quite a high line where he hasn't moved in behind. I think that's when he's at his absolute best. But just found himself in an offside position there.
Wildsmith clears the ball over halfway. Header is won by Kera. And then Downs, going down, wins the free kick for West Ham as Paul Warne watches on. The Derby County manager is reminiscing about his own memories of the FA Cup as a player ahead of this one. Played at Anfield for Rotherham back in the day. They lost 3-0 to Liverpool. Says his mum still remembers it to this day, because it's not just for the players, is it? It's for the family, absolutely, for the friends. Yeah. Still, this competition a special occasion as West Ham win the header and send it up towards halfway, and particularly for players like Jason Knight, who's just won the ball there for Derby, 21 years old. As West Ham pick it up, ready to take that throw, and if they'd taken that quickly there, they might have caught Derby out, because Derby's players were pushed up the field, but Fornals delayed there, and West Ham go back towards halfway.
Souček wanted the ball thrown to him, but Fornals took his time. Paul Warne was an FA Vase winner though, Vicky, for Wroxham, another team from Norfolk. I don't want to talk about Norfolk all evening, but
why not?
Then he went on to Wigan, and Rotherham had a really good career, he did, as a player.
And it all started out in your village side with you, Chris Sutton.
Not many can say that.
Fornals in possession midway through the Derby half. West Ham leading by a goal to nil with 10 minutes to play until half time. Souček with the ball out to the left hand side. Beautiful control by Emerson on the edge of the penalty area. Tries to get the ball across. It's well blocked by Corey Smith behind for a West Ham corner.
Yeah, Corey Smith doing his job really well there. It's a job as a fullback in those wide areas. Very basic, stop the cross. Emerson trying to create a little bit of space for himself with that left foot of his, but Derby have to make sure they defend this corner now.
West Ham looking to double their advantage as we approach half-time. Fornals stands over it, raises that right arm in the air. It's over the head of almost everybody. Derby win the initial header on the edge of their own 6-yard box with Forsyth. Skimmed just over the head of Souček, that ball, as West Ham pick it up in the centre circle and send it out to the left-hand side with Emerson. Derby just putting on the press, trying to force West Ham back to the halfway line, but Downs will pick it up for the Premier League side, and Fornals forced now all the way back into his own penalty area and all the way back to Areola.
He is in credit to Derby for pushing West Ham back, but I think West Ham have really got to grips in the centre of the park. Souček and Downs haven't really got on the ball as they should do. That's their job. Brilliant from Antonio.
Lovely control by Antonio. Spins the ball round Curtis Davis. Lays it off on the left-hand side to Fornals. Checks inside the penalty area. Great foot in by Harahan. And clears the ball out to Mendes Lang on the right-hand side. He plays it back towards his own penalty area. Little deflection. Does go through to Harahan, but I'm not sure Mendes Lang made the right decision there. And now Harahan's given it straight to Antonio, left-hand side of the penalty area. Derby almost masters of their own downfall there. The ricochet takes it behind for a West Ham corner. Oh, they were living dangerously there, the League One side.
Yeah, I've got to say Harahan initially did brilliantly well, because Fornals had the opportunity to shoot, shape to shoot with his left foot, and tried to move it inside on his right foot, chop back. Harahan was there initially, but then he delayed his pass. Antonio pinched the ball off him, and eventually Harahan got back and made the block. But can West Ham make something from this corner?
They're finishing the half strongly, West Ham, leading by a goal to nil on 5 Live as Fornals swings it in low. Poor delivery, cleared away on the edge of the 6-yard box and out of the penalty area, up towards halfway. And when I hear you groan next to me, Chris Sutton, it wasn't great, was it?
I mean, professional player to hit such a woeful set piece as that. Dear me.
Well, he's got the chance to take a throw now, Fornals, as the ball skims off the head of Curtis Davis. Can he redeem himself?
Well, hopefully his throw-in's better than his corner.
Well, he's left it for Emerson.
Didn't get past the first man. Well, yep. Maybe the wise thing to do.
So we won't know just yet. He's played some nice passes for Fornals. His vision, execution has been good, but he's really drifted in and out of the game as well, as Johnson won't control. And the ball is out for a Derby throw. David Moyes trudges back to his technical area. What do you think he'd give this first half out of 10 from his West Ham side? They are ahead, they lead by a goal to nil.
Well, I think result-wise he would be absolutely delighted. Performance-wise, I think he'd be bitterly disappointed. This is an opportunity for a lot of players, you could say fringe players, to actually make the most of a game like this. And there's one of them, Souček, on the ball, but he hasn't been dominant in the centre of the park. Doesn't show for the ball enough for me. Same with Downs. It's their job to link the play, get on the half turn and pass forward. And I think in that central area, Derby have given as good as they've got in the first half so far. I think West Ham have been very bitty going forward. Hasn't really clicked, but you could say that about West Ham for the whole of this season.
Emerson in possession for West Ham, who lead 1-0 here on 5 Live. Antonio coming back from an offside position. Well, he knew it, the fans knew it, and eventually the linesman on this near side puts his flag up. Just going back to Souček then, who's waiting in the centre circle, wearing the pink boots. What do you put his struggles down to this season, this dissipation of form?
It's a player who's just lacking confidence. You know, I'm not a body language expert, but you see his shoulders are slumped. There's just been Barkwell, he actually gets back there. But you remember when he first arrived, and you know the goals which he scored, you know, and renowned for drifting into the box late. You know, he was so impressive, but that part of his game seems to have deserted him a bit this season. I think only 1 goal this season. Was he double figures? I think he was one season, one of his first seasons in the Premier League.
Yeah, very good goal scoring record. Hasn't scored since the end of August this campaign, as the ball goes out to the left hand side for Derby, and Barkhuizen swings it in right-footed, headed away on the byline by Emerson for West Ham. That's really well defended by Emerson. He was under real pressure there. Not only doesn't concede the corner, having won that header, but manages to play it down the left hand side, and West Ham, although still in their own half, trying to spring the counter. Good sliding touch from Souček there to stop the ball ricocheting through to Collins. He would have had a run at Ogbonna. And Ogbonna it is now, who picks up the ball on the edge of the penalty area. But David Moyes, he's not happy down there on the touchline, Chris Sutton.
Yeah, and I totally get it, because you know, when they're in possession, that's a good pass from Souček, a raking pass from left to right, but their passing hasn't been quick enough, slick enough. All evening so far, they need to move the ball much quicker.
This is a little better though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. As they're doing with Flynn Downs out to the left-hand side, and now plays it back to Kehrer. Has the option of Johnson on this right-hand side and uses him, and Johnson just overruns the ball, and it's intercepted by Barkhuizen. Down the left-hand side he goes. Johnson does well, gets back. He's claiming the throw, but it goes against West Ham, and Derby have it on the halfway line.
Yeah, Johnson just really careless in possession there. I suppose if you're Paul Warne, you're going in, you haven't created anything too clear-cut. Got 3 minutes of half-time, but he'll feel his team are still well in this game. They need to do better in forward areas.
Just the goal West Ham lead by. Nice play by Roberts for Derby down the left-hand side, but he's forced backwards by Bowen. And Derby working out to the right, the left-hand side now, and Harahan in field to Roberts, who drifts into that central position, and now out to the right-hand side Derby go. Can they fashion an opportunity before half-time? Mendez-Laing, couple of step-overs down to the byline. It's done really well there. Mendez-Laing drives it across the 6-yard box, cleared away by Ogbonna. Antonio wins the header, but there's nobody ahead of him, and Roberts does well to get back and win a header of his own. Derby trying to come forward with Curtis Davies, who's out of position now, and here you go West Ham over the halfway line. Excellent challenge on Antonio by Roberts to stop the counter, and Wildsmith clears over the halfway line, and suddenly it's just opening up in the final 2 minutes here on 5 Live in this first half, as Derby's fans gesture for the side to go forward, to play it forward, and Curtis Davies says that now to Corey Smith, who does play it over the halfway line. Come on Derby is the chant around Pride Park, as Mendez-Laing wins a throw deep in West Ham territory. Derby 0, West Ham 1.
Yeah, it's amazing what a couple of step-overs can do to get the crowd up. Really good from Mendez-Laing. Isolated Emerson through one step over, then another one went past him, got to the byline and pulled it back, but it was cleared.
Ball into the area from the right-hand side by Smith, cleared away by West Ham, and Antonio will try and counter again. He's almost on his own there, and he's been penalised, as Jared Bowen was just about, in fact it was Flynn Downs who was just about to join him through the centre. And that is a bit of a sigh of relief for Derby, because West Ham almost managed to force their way in behind.
I think it was Max Bird who hauled over there. Those are coming together. Derby maybe slightly fortunate there.
Harahan plays it out to the left-hand side. Again, David Moyes throws his arms up in frustration as Barkhuizen goes for goal. Curls it high into the stands. And the groans around us will tell you that maybe wasn't the right option, Chris Sutton.
No, but I like his direct play, Barkhuizen, and this caused Ben Johnson all sorts of problems, but likes to come inside on his right foot, received the ball on the touchline, drove inside the box, and you can see the idea, trying to bend it into the far top corner, but got the shot horribly wrong.
Well, he's another in good form at the moment, Barkhuizen. 4 goals in his last 6 games, 6 for the season, as we enter 1 minute of added time at the end of this first half. West Ham leading through Jared Bowen's early goal. It's Bowen who plays it forward, looking for Fornals. Forsyth gets a foot in, but here you go West Ham with Souček. Forced out to the left-hand side, has Antonio ahead of him. Emerson is arriving, but Souček goes back to Downs. Well dispossessed by Mendes-Lang, but can only find Souček. And now Emerson has it on that left-hand side, and West Ham content to go back to halfway, leading as they are by the single goal. And all the way they go back to Alphonse Areola, who clears it over the halfway line, right-footed, looking for the runner Bowen. He's beaten in the air by the aerially dominant Forsyth. Ben Johnson wins his own header. Forsyth has it again, controls, clears straight to Souček, all getting a bit scrappy. And Harahan just calms things down. Lovely leave by Hayden Roberts to shake off the attentions of Jared Bowen. And that will do for the first half. Well, there's applause around Pride Park. Derby of League One are trailing, but it's only by a goal to nil, and West Ham, Chris Sutton, have not been at their best.
No, absolutely not. I think, this first half has been about one moment where, some decent play on the edge of the Derby box. Good little ball over the Derby back line from Antonio. I think it was Souček who drifted into the box, headed it across, and Bowen had the easiest of opportunities from 4 yards. But other than that, they haven't really been fluent in the final third, neither have Derby, to be fair. But I think Paul Warne's side have been really industrious. They've worked hard, and Paul Warne will go in at half-time and feel that there's more to come from his Derby team. And at 1-0, they are still well in this tie.
The long unbeaten run is under threat, though, for Derby. What will the second half bring? Half-time at Pride Park, Derby 0, West Ham 1.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Chris. So the Jared Bowen goal separating the teams at half-time in the FA Cup 4th round at Pride Park. We'll recap the 5th round draw. The winners tonight go to Old Trafford. There's also golf, rugby union and NFL coming up between now and the start of the second half in the commentary match. It's all coming up after the latest 5 Live news with Richard Foster.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Firefighters across the UK have voted to go on strike for the first time in 20 years. The Fire Brigade Union says more than 80% of its members backed a walkout over pay. Our employment correspondent Zoe Conway has been looking at when that walkout could happen.
They're hoping that around the 8th, 9th of February to have a meeting with the government to try and see if any kind of agreement can be made to avert a strike. Then they'd have to give 14 days notice. So realistically, the earliest any fire brigade strike would be about the 23rd of February.
The government says the threat of strike action will be disappointing and concerning. Wednesday's planned teachers' strike will go ahead in England and Wales after talks between unions and the government broke down. The National Education Union says an opportunity has been squandered, but the Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan, insists she's doing everything possible to protect children's education.
It's really disappointing. It really is. It's so disruptive. It's not a last resort. They have chosen to have this strike, obviously in conjunction with many others, but it isn't a last resort, and we are still in discussions. And I'm always in those discussions in good faith.
The government has set out plans for 800 more ambulances and 5,000 new hospital beds in England. Ministers also want to create more virtual wards where medical staff can use technology to treat patients at home. At least 59 people are now known to have been killed by a bomb apparently targeting police officers praying in a mosque in the city of Peshawar in Pakistan. The attack's been linked to the Pakistani Taliban. Investigators want to speak to a gas engineer about a woman who was found dead at her flat in Surrey 3 years after she was last seen. Laura Winham's body was discovered in Woking in May 2021. It's hoped the engineer may be able to narrow down the timeframe of her death. And McDonald's in Wrexham has started playing classical music and rationing Wi-Fi as it tries to deter antisocial behaviour. It's taken action after incidents at the restaurant and elsewhere in the city, which have led to police issuing dispersal orders. Police say up to 30 youngsters have caused upset, but there's been progress recently.
On BBC iPlayer.
We have turned this house into a proper home.
I love you, Stacey.
I'm back with a team to sort your life out, tackling bigger challenges.
This is the biggest shoe collection we have ever seen.
Well, that stuff, where was it in the flat?
Transforming families' homes.
This is looking so much better already.
It's going to be life-changing.
And restoring joy to their lives all in 7 days.
This is amazing.
More than we could ever imagine.
It's the start of my new life.
Brand new Sort Your Life Out with me, Stacey Solomon. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sport with Darren Fletcher.
Half-time at Pride Park, Derby County 0, West Ham United 1. Jared Bowen with an early goal. That's in the FA Cup 4th round. The winners will go to Old Trafford to play Manchester United. The rest of the 5th round draw took place earlier tonight. Wrexham or Sheffield United against Tottenham. Southampton versus Luton Town or Grimsby Town. Bristol City against Manchester City. Leicester City against either Blackburn Rovers or Birmingham City. Stoke City versus Brighton. Fulham or Sunderland against Leeds. Ipswich or Burnley against Sheffield Wednesday or Fleetwood Town. In the women's competition, the holders Chelsea take on Arsenal. WSL leaders Manchester United are against Durham. Bristol City against Manchester City, as it is in the men's draw. Charlton, Birmingham. West Ham against Aston Villa. Lewis against Cardiff. Tottenham against Reading. And Brighton against Coventry. Now, away from football, Rory McIlroy won the Dubai Desert Classic earlier today after a thrilling final round, and our correspondent Ian Carter was watching.
Well, it was an extraordinary day of golf, totally in keeping with the extraordinary circumstances of the week, really. The storm that started with Patrick Reed's tossed tee at Rory McIlroy that developed into actual storms that forced the tournament into an unprecedented 5th day. And then what a day it proved. It was entirely in keeping that it was Reed who pushed the world number 1 the hardest. And boy, McIlroy had to dig deep. He needed to birdie the last 2 holes to beat his American rival, who was round in 65. And he did it with a 14-footer for that birdie at the last, which prompted a huge roar of delight because McIlroy had beaten the man he would have most wanted to avoid losing to.
Obviously on the back 9, when Patrick sort of drew level with me, I really needed to dig deep, and I thought I'd sort of blown my chance with the bogey on 15. But thankfully he bogeyed 16, and then I played, a great last couple of holes, great tee shot on 17, good 2-putt, and then, that up and down at the last. So mentally it was very tough today. Like I felt like I could have let my emotions get in the way of what I was trying to do because of who was up there on the leaderboard. So I expended a lot of mental energy today, just really trying to focus on myself, focus on shooting a score, trying to reach a number. I sort of set myself a target of 20 under at the start of the day. 19 was good enough in the end, but pretty draining week as a first week back out, but obviously ecstatic to get the win.
For you to win first tournament out for the first time in a year as world number 1, having come under pressure from Jon Rahm as well, that must be very, very satisfying.
It is. I mean, I think, again, the most satisfying thing to me this week is I haven't had my best. Yeah, far from it. And to be able to win when you don't have your best is that's the sort of like the holy grail of what we're trying to do. So, but definitely there's a ton of room for improvement going into the next few weeks.
Ian Carter chatting there to Rory McIlroy. Now, the Rugby Union Daily podcast is back for the Six Nations. The first episode is a big tournament preview with guests including Steve Borthwick, Andy Farrell, Gregor Townsend and the returning Wales boss, Warren Gatland.
Promise you, I wasn't never expecting to be back coaching Wales back in the Six Nations again, but being here today and starting to get pretty excited about it.
What's the best thing about the Six Nations for you?
Not so much the rugby, it's kind of like, it's more of an event. Away fans, you go to stadiums and 40% of the fans can be away supporters, and that creates an unbelievable atmosphere and playing in full stadiums. So the history of what was the Five Nations, now the Six Nations, there's bragging rights as well. That kind of being able to go in on a Monday when your team's won and you can sort of rub a few people's noses, and that creates a bit of fun and what makes this tournament so special.
You can hear more of that on BBC Sounds, where you can also catch Five Live's commentary of England against Scotland this Saturday from 4:45. Wales against Ireland will be on 5 Sports Extra from 2:15. Now, next month's Super Bowl will see the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat the Cincinnati Bengals and the San Francisco 49ers in their respective championship games last night. Let's speak to Jesse Newell, who's the Chiefs beat reporter for the Kansas City Star. Jesse, welcome to 5 Live Sport.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I mean, talk to me about the impression that Patrick Mahomes left last night, having played through the pain barrier with this injury. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff today that said that he had a brilliant reputation before last night's match, but that's even grown stronger based on what we saw him go through to lead the Chiefs to yet another Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this past week we were shooting all the iPhone videos in practice to get people the reports and to see just how that ankle was going to hold up after he had a high ankle sprain last week. And really, you could barely tell out there. I know a lot of people around here are making some comparisons to Michael Jordan. He had sort of a famous flu game here in the States in the NBA Finals where he wasn't feeling his best and still willed his team to victory. And I think we saw some parts of that last night from Patrick Mahomes. There were times when he landed on his ankle kind of funny and you could see him limp off the field, but still enough in that moment to will his team to victory in a game where the Chiefs had a lot of other players that were injured. So I think this will go down as sort of a legacy game for him to be able to overcome that injury and be able to still get his team to the Super Bowl. Pretty impressive things last night.
Just explain the injury that he had in a little more detail and just how debilitating is that injury for an NFL quarterback?
Yeah, absolutely. A high ankle sprain. It's a little bit different from the normal ankle sprains we think about where you kind of roll your ankle to the outside. He actually got his leg kind of fallen on last week, so he rolled it to the inside. And so it's sort of interesting. It's not maybe what you think, which is where it hurts him most is trying to stop. When you put your pressure on your foot to try to stop yourself, that's really when it can cause the pain. And so we know Patrick Mahomes here just as the guy who always scrambles outside the pocket, always kind of runs around to make a play. And so last night there wasn't as much of that. He couldn't do some of the crazy stuff that he normally does on a football field. But instead, he mostly stayed in one spot, was able to throw the ball around, and then in a big moment at the end of the game was still able to take off down the sideline. I think I saw the next-gen stats from ESPN or from the NFL said that he got up to 18 miles an hour, which was the fastest he's been this postseason. So even on that pain, even with that ankle injury that normally keeps most guys out, depends on the position, but 3 to 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, the very next week, Patrick Mahomes was still in there for the Chiefs, and he delivered when his team needed him most.
So the reality is that he's still going to have to play through the pain barrier in 2 weeks' time in Arizona. He's only 27 years of age. He's the youngest player to register 10 playoff victories in NFL history. Every season he's been a starter, he's reached the AFC Championship game, and now here he is in his 3rd Super Bowl already and bidding to win a 2nd one with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, this is some legacy that he's building. We've been so used to talking about Tom Brady being the greatest player of all time, and his numbers are there for everybody to shoot at, but this is not a bad start for a young man who wants to leave his own legacy behind in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. He's on that pace, and it's amazing to say that. He's been the Chiefs starter for 5 years. Each of those years, the Chiefs have hosted the championship game in their conference for 5 years in a row. It's never been done in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes did it in his very first 5 seasons. And like you said, 3 Super Bowl appearances now. And so, yeah, he's on that track. He's on that Brady-type track, and he's doing things in the NFL that really nobody's ever seen before, whether it comes to his smarts, his ability to make plays that nobody's seen before, his arm angles. He throws it underhand, side-armed. Someday, I'm sure he'll throw it behind his back. He's been practicing that in practice all year. When we see it, it's going to be on all the highlight shows. But, yeah, it is amazing talent, an amazing, phenomenal person, and obviously given a face to Kansas City, too, that wouldn't be there otherwise.
And I noticed today that the Philadelphia Eagles have been made 2-point favourites to win Super Bowl 57. How's that gone down in KC?
Well, this past week was kind of a crazy one because the Chiefs opened as 3-point favorites, and then it swung all the way to the Bengals being favored by 2.5 before at the very end the Chiefs were favored again. So that just tells you that the power of Patrick Mahomes is that, I talked to a bookmaker in Las Vegas last week, and he said that with Mahomes totally healthy, he would have had the Chiefs as a 4.5-point favorite. With Mahomes out, he would have had the Bengals as a 5-point as a 5-point favorite. So basically, Mahomes playing or not playing is worth 10 points or 9.5 points in an NFL football game, which is huge. But you could tell from some of the comments, if you look them up last night, there were some things said from the Cincinnati side that fired up the Chiefs players. The Cincinnati mayor was actually saying some things that fired up Chiefs players that they talked about after the game. So some crazy things went on. But this city in football with Patrick Mahomes is not used to being an underdog, but they sort of like that role, and they definitely liked it last night when they were able to win the AFC Championship and advance to that Super Bowl.
It's going to be quite a couple of weeks as we build up to Super Bowl 57. It's going to be lively in Kansas City. It's going to be lively in Philadelphia. The Eagles start as favourites to win Super Bowl 57. But if Patrick Mahomes has anything to do with it, he's going to go there with his eye on lifting the Lombardi Trophy for the second time. Jesse, thanks for joining us on 5 Live Sport tonight.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
That's Jesse Newell, who's the Kansas City Chiefs beat reporter for the Kansas City Star. And, of course, there is full coverage of Super Bowl 57 from Glendale, Arizona on the 12th of February. Greg Brady and Vernon Kay leading the coverage on 5 Live on what is always one of the big sporting nights of the year. Let's head back to Pride Park. The teams will be out shortly. West Ham leading thanks to Jared Bowen's goal early in the first half. I mean, they did okay, Chris, didn't they, Derby, in terms of being competitive, but they've just got that problem of finding enough quality in the final third to really test West Ham.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think, I'm just thinking back to, did Areola have a save to make? I don't think he did. I think, he plucked a cross or two out of the air, and that was it. So that will be the challenge for Paul Warne and this Derby team in the second half. But if they're still in the game with 20-25 minutes to go, then they'll have to throw real caution to the wind. I've got to say, I've been really disappointed with West Ham and their performance overall. I know that there have been changes and they haven't got Declan Rice in the team, but still expect more from the likes of Souček, who's been a real disappointment all season. But in the final third, hasn't really clicked for them. And I know Jared Bowen has got his goal and he got a couple against Everton, but I don't think he's threatened in behind enough. And you look back to last season, that was when he was at his very best, space in behind, making those runs. I think he's come or he's moving to feet all the time and trying to get the ball to feet. I don't think that's when he's when he's at his most effective. So I suspect David Moyes would have had harsh words with the West Ham team at half-time and expect a better performance in this second half.
Well, the West Ham players are back out. Jared Bowen's goal separating the teams. One of them, West Ham at the minute, 45 minutes away from a 5th-round tie at Old Trafford against Manchester United. Chris is at Pride Park and he's alongside Vicky Sparks.
Thanks, Fletch. Well, one thing we know about Derby County this season is that they never know when they're beaten. They have a real habit of scoring late winners, late equalisers. That stretches back to last campaign as well as this one, in truth. Chris, what do they need to change? What can they change in this second half to repeat that feat against West Ham?
I think that Paul Warne will expect, far more in terms of James Collins as a central striker, but Barkhuizen and Mendes-Lang really getting in and around him off his flicks when the ball does go into him. And I think they've just got to try and be braver when they're in the final third and take responsibility, get more crosses into the box and put this West Ham defence under pressure.
So no changes at half-time. We are underway in the second half. Derby in their traditional home kit, the white shirts, the black shorts and the black socks, playing from left to right. West Ham in their home kit as well, the claret and blue. And under pressure early on, ball cleared away by Kerr on the edge of his own penalty area for a Derby throw. We'll take you through the lineups in a moment, but bright starts from Derby, trailing by a 0-0 and looking to utilise this throw from the left-hand side. Jason Knight's making the run out to that left-hand side. Souček goes with him. And Derby instead opt to go to Forsyth midway through the West Ham half. Lovely control by Knight now, edge of the penalty area, played in by Forsyth. Knight drives the shot low and Areola was very confident there, let it roll past that left-hand post of his. Nice work from Knight.
Yeah, really good feet. I think it was Forsyth on the left-hand side who fed the ball 25 yards into Knight on the edge of the box, and created himself a shooting opportunity, but Downs had put him under enough pressure, and the shot was pretty tame and went past Areola's left-hand post.
West Ham in possession, coming down the other end. Good interception on the edge of the penalty area by Roberts for Derby, who come over the halfway line now, playing with an urgency in this second half as Mendes-Lang picks it up, steps away from Emerson in field, and then does the same to Fornals, plays it back to Bird, and Derby forced back to halfway. Davis will find Mendes-Lang on this right-hand side once again. Oh, strike the nutmeg through the legs of Fornals, goes to Knight. Lovely play by Mendes-Lang, who gets it back now, out to the right-hand side. Smith with the ball in, and it's over the head of Collins now. The free kick's gone the other way. Collins went down, ball was over his head, perhaps got a little push, but the referee, Thomas Bramall, has decided it's a free kick the other way. To be fair, it wasn't really Collins that appealed, it was Barkhuizen, his teammate, but would have been a soft penalty?
Well, Collins actually handled the ball, the cross in from the right-hand side from Smith, and Collins had made the run. I think there was a cross Ogbonna, and the ball was over his head, and he tried to, I think, thump the ball into the net, didn't do that, and was claiming he was fouled.
But unmoved was referee Thomas Bramall, and we play on. 3 minutes gone in this second half. West Ham 1-0 up thanks to Jarrod Bowen's goal early in the first period. It's all the way back with Areola, who's one of 6 West Ham changes for this one. Flicked up towards halfway, but Curtis Davis is there for Derby, who have gone strong. Just the one enforced change for them. Top scorer David McGoldrick out injured. Collins in for him. So Derby with Wildsmith in goal. The back four of Corey Smith, Davis, Forsyth and Roberts. Ahead of them it's Harahan, Bird and Knight, with Mendes-Lang, Barkhuizen and Collins up front as they miss control from Antonio. Means the ball will go out for a Derby throw. For West Ham with Areola in goal. The back three of Kehrer, Ogbonna and Aguerd. Ahead of them it's Johnson, Soucek, Downs and Emerson, with Bowen the goal scorer, Fornals and Antonio up front. But I have to say, Fornals has really drifted around in this match. He's had a very free role, sometimes popping up in central midfield, sometimes in the number 10, as Areola is closed down by Barkhuizen and plays the ball out to the right-hand side. Nice control by Johnson in field to Downs, who plays it to Kehrer, and Downs once more.
Yeah, he didn't get on the ball enough in that first half, Flynn Downs, and I think that, you know, it's a big issue for West Ham in the middle of the park.
Here goes Fornals, back heel from Curtis Davis, stops Antonio going through, but it's picked up by Bowen, drives the ball across, Antonio's there, and there's the second. A big clenched fist from David Moyes, because West Ham have doubled their advantage early in this second half. Deflection on the ball as it came through, but it's sat up kindly for Antonio. Simplest task to convert from close range, and West Ham lead Derby by 2-0.
Yeah, and David Moyes punches the air, he's delighted. I mean, essentially, looks like it's game over. It's a long way back for Derby County now. And it was Jarrod Bowen on that right-hand side. They were 2v2, got his head up. I think there was a big deflection on the cross, and it just sat up beautifully for Mikel Antonio, 6 yards out level with the far post. Couldn't miss that, and he's got his goal, Mikel Antonio. And as I say, Derby County, Paul Warne will be bitterly disappointed about the nature of the goal. I think it was maybe Forsyth who the ball just popped up off and all the way through to Antonio, but they haven't been at their fluent best, but they found themselves 2-0 up and looking like they're going to go up against Manchester United in the next round.
Yeah, that is a reward, a trip to Old Trafford for the winners of this tie, as Antonio's name is sung by the travelling support of West Ham, and you can hear the response from Derby. All going down to West Ham. Derby are hoping to go up to the Championship, 4th in League One. As the ball is into the area from West Ham once again, laid off by Bowen, was looking for the run of Antonio, but it's cleared away by Derby. But suddenly, it's just starting to click for West Ham, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, 2 goals, pretty much game over, we think. And a slickness, a far greater tempo to the West Ham passing now.
And they have it over on the right-hand side, now going back into the central position. Well, he might have told the BBC's Footballers Football podcast that he wasn't sure nothing ruled out in terms of his future in January as the ball rolls out of play for a goal kick to Derby. But his application's been good. David Moyes very clearly shut that down, said they've no intention of Antonio going anywhere this January. And he's got the second goal that has put West Ham in a comfortable position in this time.
Just wonder whether David Moyes actually listened to the podcast. I mean, just imagine steam coming out of his ears, but he's actually put himself about tonight, Antonio. I think he's been isolated at times, which you think, well, against League One opposition, albeit a good Derby County team under Paul Warne, you expect players to get closer and in and around Antonio.
Forsyth wins the header ahead of Antonio on the halfway line. Max Bird will play it forward for Derby. West Ham get a foot in and Souček has it on the halfway line, but well won back by Barkhuizen. Out to the right-hand side now comes the ball to Mendes-Lang, but can't control, and it bounces off him and out for a West Ham throw. Yes, it's a good point, Chris, on how David Moyes found out about what Antonio had said, whether Antonio told him or whether he read the quotes or whether he was just sitting down with a cup of tea at the West Ham training ground and thought, I'll go to BBC Sounds, I'll download the Footballers Football podcast, and there's your striker saying that nothing's ruled out, talks are going on, and whatever happens, happens. I'm not sure I would have remained calm.
Absolutely.
Here come West Ham down the left-hand side. Emerson.
He probably would have listened to the Fantasy 606 podcast first, and then gone on to, what's it called, the Footballers Football
podcast. You can download it from BBC Sounds along with the Football Daily and the Transfer Gossip Daily. Emerson's ball into the area, cleared away by Forsyth, headed back forwards by Johnson, brought down by Fornals, and now Downs, forced back to halfway West Ham, but they are starting to tick. That second goal early in this second half has really taken the wind out of the sails of Derby County as West Ham win a throw midway through the Derby half on the right-hand side. Chris Sutton.
You're just thinking of that name, the Footballers Football Podcast. They could have thought of a better name. I mean, footballers have better imagination than that, don't they? In terms of the West Ham performance in the second half, yeah, they're totally dominant now, aren't they? That second goal really seems to have deflated Derby County.
Header by Fornals into the area. Antonio looking to latch onto it. Good clearance away by Forsyth. Forward once more go West Ham. Jared Bowen dispossessed just outside the Derby penalty area. And Mendes-Lang will chase this, gets a foot in, will be a West Ham throw. Derby 0, West Ham 2, 9 minutes gone. I mean, some would say Fantasy 606 in terms of a title is also does what it says on the tin. Chris Sutton.
Who are these people?
It's a Fantasy 606 podcast, isn't it? Anyway.
Well, we love a fantasy football. Of course, FA Cup doesn't count. Vicky, does it?
Indeed. But will it count in terms of building momentum for West Ham? It's looking that way at the moment as the ball is played out by Wildsmith. A little risky there, but Fornals can't latch onto it. And Downs will pick it up for West Ham. Out to the right-hand side they go. They're really pushing for this third goal. David Moyes' side, and Emerson has it now on the edge of the penalty area to Antonio inside the box, looking to work room for the shot. Dinks it in instead. Headed away by Derby, but only as far as Downs, who's urged to shoot from 25 yards. Ball played into the area instead. Antonio's there, the header is down, and very calmly thighed back by Forsyth to Joe Wildsmith. But Antonio again winning the header with ease there.
Yeah, he's very good in the air, isn't he? Really good leap at the far post.
Good ball forward from Derby though. Knights to Mendes-Lang on the edge of the area, well blocked away by Aguerd for West Ham, and the ball goes out of play for a Derby throw. But Jason Knight really is at the heart of everything that Derby are doing positively as they look to pull a goal back, trailing West Ham by 2-0 as they work the ball in field. Max Bird will drive 25 yards, it's high and it's wide.
Yeah, real confidence with that effort. I mean, he's a long way out, 25, 30 yards out right-hand side of the box. Left-footed effort, which flew high and wide from Bird. I think it's one of those for Derby County. You know, they've just got to hang on in there and hope, whether it's from a set piece or whatever, they can create something. And when that chance does come along, They have to take it. They have to be clinical. But first things first, they need to create an opportunity or two.
Nice play by Knight once again. Applause from the home fans at Pride Park as Collins plays it to Mendez-Laing, plays it off again. Derby have a corner.
Well, here we go. This does look like their best opportunity. They haven't been able to open West Ham up from open play. Can Harrow produce with that left foot? This will be a left-footed in-swinger. See, West Ham have gone zonal here.
Yep, lined up along the edge of the 6-yard box as Derby play the corner short to Barkhuizen. Now swung in by Harrohan. Header one on the edge of the 6-yard box by the tall figure of Souček, and Ben Johnson clears it out of the area. Now the Derby fans are screaming for a potential penalty, but Curtis Davies is too experienced to know that will be given. He doesn't appeal. He jogs back towards the halfway line, and Derby have it with Harrohan on the right-hand side. Forward to Mendez-Laing, plays the ball across, got a little deflection off again on the way through, and Ogbonna taking no chance to send it high into the stand. It's another Derby corner. They're enjoying a good little spell.
Yep, building a bit of pressure on West Ham. That had a difficult start to this second half for Derby County, but Ogbonna gets himself into a good position, level with the near post, and makes the clearance. But can they produce that bit of magic? Derby County get themselves back into this game. They need something to happen. Need it to happen pretty quickly.
So they have the short option again, and they use it again. Harrohan to Mendez-Laing, pulls it back to Bird, drifts it in left-footed, and Areola comes, and again that's a good take. He's not had much to do, Areola, but he has claimed those aerial balls well.
Yeah, and there's a worry for Paul Warne. Max Bird in clipping that cross in, which Areola came and gathered, was holding. I'm not a medical expert, Vicky, but I think his left hip flexor, he's got an issue in that groin region, and this will be a worry for Paul Warne. Huge game against the Shrimpers at the weekend. Just seeing that challenge on Curtis Davies, we've got no VAR, but I tell you what, it's a foul on him. Which, was it inside the box or outside the box?
He was just coming out of the box, but it might well have been in, so potential penalty,
well,
you think, Chris
yeah,
Sutton?
but no VAR, so referee didn't give it in real time, but I suspect with Max Bird here, now Paul Warne will make a change, because we saw Paul Warne, well, reading his comments in the week, you know, it's this game's it can be a bit of a pain. He said if they get an extra game, albeit it would have been against Manchester United, you know, their intention this season is to get back into the Championship, and Max Bird has been one of their key men.
Yep, huge season he's put in again. Derby's Young Player of the Year last season, the 22-year-old for the second time. He's a former captain of their under-23s, came through their academy. He is gingerly up to his feet, having received treatment, but as you say, Chris, no need whatsoever for Paul Warne to take a risk on him. As you mentioned, they've got Morecambe, who are struggling in League One at home on Saturday. Their priority is promotion to the Championship. They've gone strong, they've given it everything. They've certainly not stood off West Ham. There's not been any sense of Derby just turning up tonight or playing a weakened side, but when you've got a player like Max Bird, who's so important to the team, no sense whatsoever in taking any sort of risk.
No. Bird has been flying for them this season, and he can't, you know, he's hobbling off there. That's going to be a real worry for Paul Warne, but he'll make the change. He'll make a couple of changes here. One of them, I think, on loan from Norwich City, Tony
Springett, the 20-year-old, arrived earlier this month, and the second player preparing to come on for Derby is Erin Cashin. Three, there you go, Springett, Cashin and Liam Thompson as well. So you would think Cashin will probably replace Curtis Davies, but let's take them as they go through. So Liam Thompson is on for Max Bird, the 20-year-old, another Derby Academy product. And let's see if Curtis Davies is withdrawn. That would seem to... Oh, we're having a quadruple change. Dobbin is also coming on. Well, Cashin is replacing Barkhuizen. So Davies staying on for now. So that'll be a little switch up in formation. But Barkhuizen, the winger, coming off. Cashin, the centre-half, coming on.
Number 11.
And Mendes Lang is replaced by Tony Springett. And the fourth player to come on is Lewis Dobbin, who really impressed off the bench against Port Vale in their last match.
We go to a back three, I think, indeed Paul Warne.
And he is replacing Curtis Davies. So the way that they've done the subs is not the formation that they're then coming on. So Cashin is the replacement for Davies, but Dobbin is coming on right now. So we'll see how they adjust the formation, but I don't think Dobbin will be playing at centre-half.
No, I think you went early with that call, and you were proven right. I thought that he just wandered over, hadn't he, Cashin, into the area of Curtis Davies, but he's come off. Look, I think the truth is now that's the white flag up from Paul Warne is saying, I'm thinking about the Shrimpers at the weekend.
Yeah, huge game for Derby in League One. They're going so well in the third tier, sit fourth at the moment, comfortably in the playoffs, but want to push on and try and claw back some of that gap to the automatic promotion places as Forsyth clears away. West Ham leading by 2-0. Forsyth out of play for a throw to West Ham. What does this do then to your mentality as a player? Because West Ham are 2-0 up, they're comfortable, they have been throughout most of the match so far, but you don't want comfort to turn into complacency. And if we can see, well, Paul Warne is clearly thinking about the weekend, as a player you have to not let that get into your mind if you're West Ham.
No, absolutely right, but I think from a Derby County point of view, albeit Paul Warne has made changes, David Moyes is going to bring Ben Rama on, I think it is, but this is an opportunity for some of these Derby County players who are fringe players to give the message to Paul Warne that you need to think about me, Gaffer, for these up and coming games, and I'm ready. So, but there's no surprise here, Antonio coming off for West Ham, because he's a only fit central striker, albeit Jared Bowen can play in that role and has played in that role before, but wrapping Antonio in cotton wool.
Now, there were a few boos going around. If you look over at the West Ham fans, they're applauding and they're singing. It's obviously, you have the comments in mind that he made in the podcast about ruling nothing out of potentially a January move, but he's not going anywhere, is he? You just look at David Moyes down there with his hands in his pockets. He is not going anywhere. So Antonio is off, Ben Rama is on, and Ben Rama, who has a very good record against Derby, incidentally, 3 goals and 2 assists in 4 appearances, including a stunner for Brentford. I'm sure Brentford fans remember that a few years ago. He's on. And West Ham have a free kick on halfway, leading by 2-0, 19 minutes gone in this second half on 5 Live, and heading for a match-up with Manchester United at Old Trafford in the 5th round, as Aguerd plays the ball over the top for Niles, pokes it forward looking for Ben Rama.
David Moyes not happy there with Fornals. It's a delightful ball into him. He tried to help it on first time to Ben Rama. David Moyes thinking, well, you've got to hold it in there, take a touch. That would have been the better option. I like the way David Moyes is, though. He's demanding more. He knows he's got to get West Ham into gear this season just to make sure they survive in the Premier League. And the standard hasn't been there.
Derby in possession, coming towards the halfway line. Yes, it is, as he said before the match, it's about momentum for West Ham as much as anything, as Derby come forward, play it to Dobbin on this right-hand side, approaching the penalty area, plays the ball across. Oh, what a chance! Flag goes up eventually in the end. What an opportunity for Hayden Roberts with the header right on the edge of the 6-yard box. Goodness me, huge opportunity for Derby. The flag went up in the end. I don't know if the flag went up for Roberts or Collins, who was right there and tried to get his head on it after Roberts had miscued his. But that's a warning for West Ham.
It absolutely is, but really good play from Lewis Dobbin, who's come out to this right-hand side and drove at Emerson in the corner of the 18-yard box, just stood a ball up, beautifully flighted, and Roberts couldn't direct the header on target.
Collins receives the ball just inside the penalty area, drives it in. Ogbonna. Now, Ogbonna initially with the deflection, it was then smuggled back to Alphonse Areola by Kehrer, and they're appealing for a back pass again, the Derby fans. A few half-hearted appeals from the Derby players, but again, referee Thomas Bramall unmoved, and West Ham come over the halfway line. Benrahma lays it off to the left-hand side, and Emerson, nice work to find Benrahma inside the penalty area, plays it through. Bowen, brilliant save by Wildsmith, and cleared away at the back by Derby. They get the foot in as well, but that was lovely play from West Ham and a very good save.
Yeah, delightful play down the left-hand side. A couple of 1-2s from Emerson and Benrahma, and then Benrahma from wide on the left-hand side found Benrahma beautifully inside the box. He shaped to shoot, but looked like he was going to shoot, and fed the ball to Bowen, and his shot was really well saved. Bowen would have felt from that range, 8 yards out. Just the goalkeeper to beat that. He should have scored, really. Wasn't clinical, but good save from Wildsmith, who made himself big.
Yep, he's already got the one goal this evening, Jarrod Bowen, but as Chris said, he really could have had 2, and West Ham could have had 3. 2-0 it remains, though, on 5 Live midway through this second half, and here come West Ham once more. Good sliding interception to take the ball away from Jarrod Bowen, and will be bowled out by Wildsmith out to the left-hand side. A reminder that you can download the Football Daily podcast from BBC Sounds. Check out the Transfer Gossip Daily as well. So much content for you throughout January. Fantasy 606, the Footballers Football podcast, to listen to that Michael Antonio interview. BBC Sounds is the place to be, as West Ham have it just outside their own penalty area.
Yeah, it's just interesting the way West Ham have set up now. More or less gone to split strikers in Fornells and Bowen, with Benrahma just in behind.
Here goes Benrahma driving through the Derby half, lays it off to the right hand side, and Johnson, low ball in, sliding interception at the back from Cashin was a very good one, and the ball goes out of play for a West Ham throw, but they're flooding forward in claret and blue now.
Yeah, you can see they are really dominating now, and it's good from Benrahma popping the ball out wide right, and Bowen not far away from getting his second. Good run across the near post, but well defended from Forsyth.
So West Ham in possession inside their own half, leading by 2-0, ball ahead of Fornells. Souček goes sliding in on halfway and concedes the foul. Now, what will Thomas Bramall do here? It will be a yellow card for the West Ham midfielder.
Yep, late with the challenge. Thomas Souček, he's really struggling this season. Poor challenge, an opportunity for Derby County to try and work something.
So they have this set piece on the halfway line. Knight has come short as an option, but Hourihane sends it forward into the penalty area. Cashin was in there. West Ham make first contact and cleared out to the left-hand side by Emerson. Chested down by Benrahma, still midway inside his own half. Derby 0, West Ham 2. Emerson over the top looking for the run of Bowen. Was marshalled well by Roberts, and Wildsmith came out quickly out of his own penalty area. Dobbin with the control to bring down that clearance from the Derby number 1, and he's racing through the West Ham half, then raced into Aguerd, who is off on his own run down the left wing. The centre-back for West Ham thinks better of it, stops, checks, nice drag back, plays it forward to Benrahma as Aguerd retreats towards halfway. Benrahma's down by the byline and slows the play down, puts his foot on the ball and plays it back to Fornells, who now goes to Aguerd, who's back on the halfway line.
A really lovely composed play from Aguerd, who he's had quite a good evening. He's the left centre half of 3, driving forward. Little drag back and slipped the pass to Benrahma. Benrahma decided to come back out, and nothing came of it. Another change for Derby County.
Yeah, final change. Conor Hourihane is replaced by 19-year-old Jake Rooney, cousin of Wayne. arrived in the summer, joined their under-21s, has made a handful of appearances, but again, just a chance for some of these Derby players who are putting in such a shift in League One to get their taste against Premier League opposition as Knight goes down.
He went down easily there. I think that's an early contender for next week's simulation game, Vicky, although he did get the free kick awarded there, but not sure about that from young Knight.
Yeah, free kick to Derby just outside their own penalty area. He's one I'm sure that will have relished the test against West Ham, as will Jake Rooney, teenager who's just come on. And Paul Warne touched on that as well beforehand, saying he appreciates some of these players that Derby have played in the Premier League, but for the younger lads, these sort of occasions are a big thing. With Bowen on the halfway line, sends it back to Kehrer. But interestingly, Curtis Davis, picking up on that, was saying, I mean, he's so experienced, so much Premier League experience throughout his career, 37 years old, but he was saying, look, I'm not going to have many more chances to play against teams like this in my career. So for me, it's something that I want to give a good account as well. Here is Ben Rama, 20 yards out, urged to shoot, plays it to the right-hand side instead, and Johnson will drive, and it's another good save by Wildsmith, beats it away at his near post, almost ricochets back to Johnson inside the penalty area. Derby eventually managed to get the ball away with Springett down that left-hand side. But Wildsmith called into action once again, Chris.
Yeah, it was a good save. I've got to say, I think Ben Rama coming on as sharpen things up for West Ham. Really incisive pass out to the right-hand side of the box, and good strike from Johnson. A decent save from Wildsmith.
Derby in possession with Cashin just inside his own half. You mentioned the formation switch, which has seen West Ham with the 1-2 rather than the 3 with the wide player supporting Antonio through the middle. Do they look better with the 2 as a formation?
I think they've looked better second half. Ben Rama, you know, he can be a frustrating player at times, but there are a lot of West Ham fans this evening not happy to see him on the bench. There is a little tweak in formation, but look, essentially they play Newcastle at the weekend. It'll be Antonio as the central striker. That's what David Moyes will do. I'd be shocked if he starts with this front 3.
Yeah, tough run coming up for West Ham in the Premier League as they have it with Kehrer, who is trying to decide what to do. Now, West Ham have got to play it down. That's why Kehrer was delaying, and the ball has spun out of play. So a pause for a bit of treatment here. But yes, tough run in the Premier League for West Ham. Newcastle and Tottenham, Chelsea in between those as well.
Which Tottenham, though, Vicky? You just don't know, do you? With Tottenham week to week. Conte has sort of had a few animated moments this season. He's box office, isn't he, Conte?
He is. And they potentially, as Ben Johnson gets back up to his feet and Derby are in possession, they potentially got a box office FA Cup tie, because if Wrexham win their replay with Sheffield United, they will host Tottenham in the FA Cup 5th round. Derby in possession.
Sounds
just
like
inside
you're writing
their own half.
Sheffield United off. I think
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, to be fair, it would be relative box office if it was Sheffield United at home to Tottenham. That's a good cup tie as well, but I'm sure Ryan Reynolds will be desperate for that one.
That was their chance gone, wasn't it? I think.
Ooh, big call.
Didn't you think that was? I know the issue with Sheffield United, in a great position in the Championship, aren't they? They, look like they're going to go up automatically. So I think it'll be about team selection for Paul Heckingbottom.
Yep, plenty of replays to come in the FA Cup 4th round before we find out the definitive lineup for the 5th round. Derby in possession, just inside their own half. If you missed the draw earlier, Southampton at home to Luton or Grimsby, Leicester will host Blackburn or Birmingham, Stoke against Brighton, Fulham or Sunderland against Leeds, Bristol City against Manchester City, Ipswich or Burnley against Sheffield Wednesday or Fleetwood. And as we mentioned, the winner of this, which looks like, as things stand, 15 minutes to play, West Ham leading 2-0, will be West Ham, will be away to Manchester United And Wrexham or Sheffield United hosting Tottenham as the ball is into the area. Ogbonna heads it away for West Ham. Fornals helps it on up towards halfway, and Ben Rama will find Fornals once more out to the left-hand side. Fornals over the top looking for the run of Jared Bowen, just too much on it, and Wildsmith comes out and gathers on the edge of his penalty area.
Yep, it was a good run from Bowen. Nothing came of it, the ball too close to Wildsmith. Dobbins made a difference for Derby, hasn't he, with his direct running. I say that and he's just miscontrolled it by me.
Only just though, Emerson did well. We'll be kind to him because he has throughout the season made a difference for Derby coming off the bench as Cashin sends the ball out to the left hand side, and Roberts once more ball towards the edge of the area, cleared away by Ogbonna. Helped on in field towards Fornals, who heads it back towards his own penalty area, and Agard says, let's not do that, let's clear it over halfway. Almost turned into a fabulous ball by Agard for Bowen. Well marshalled at the back eventually by Derby, but that was some distribution there. Or did he just get lucky?
No, it was good distribution. Interesting reading, I can't remember which newspaper it's in. Cashin has been linked with Norwich City. He moved to Norwich City, biggest club in East Anglia.
He's had a very, very good season for Derby, another that came through the academy. And West Ham preparing to make another double change for them. It's about trying to save some legs now ahead of return to Premier League action. The first player to be replaced is Emerson, and Aaron Cresswell will take his place. And Jared Bowen, who got things underway early doors for West Ham, is replaced by Divin Mbama, who makes his West Ham debut. So 18 years old, came through the West Ham Academy. He's been with them since he was 8 years old. Oh, I do apologise, he hasn't scored for West Ham. Got confused with my green markings, Chris. He has already made his debut this season, 2 appearances, but he comes on in the FA Cup for West Ham, the 18-year-old, and gets another chance to impress David Moyes. West Ham leading by 2-0. Derby with the free kick, though, sent into the penalty area, and the header is looped high and looped over the bar, and still, we have to say, Areola has had very little to do.
Yeah, but I could have played in goal for West Ham this evening. It wasn't a great free kick. It was Cashin who actually attacked the ball well, but high and wide with the header. Cashin couldn't cash in on that occasion.
So, West Ham collect the ball over on that far side, and overall, David Moyes standing on the edge of his technical area. He'll be much happier with his second half.
Yeah, look, it hasn't been perfect in terms of performance, but I think, you know, you're coming to a Derby County team who won the last 6 games and gathering real momentum. This is a difficult tie, and that would have been a major blemish for David Moyes had his West Ham team lost this game. There's still 11 minutes left, so things may change, but you just don't feel it. They haven't been good enough in the final third. They haven't caused West Ham, those 3 centre-halves, enough problem.
They're coming forward down this right-hand side. Mbama looking for the 1-2, but it's read by Forsyth, who goes all the way back to Joe Wildsmith. Derby 0, West Ham 2, here on BBC Radio 5 Live. 10 minutes plus added time to play as the ball goes out to the left-hand side. Derby still pushing, still probing, looking to get a goal that would at least make the final 10 minutes interesting. And Roberts, he's been full of running down that left-hand side, has won a throw midway through the West Ham half. So potential movement for Derby. Lewis Dobbin is waiting on the right-hand side of the penalty area, but Derby opt to go all the way back. And in field, they go now to Corey Smith. Out to the right-hand side as they find Wayne Rooney's cousin, Jake Rooney. And over the halfway line now they go. Just picking up the pace, Derby, with the options down the left-hand side of Roberts, who plays it in field to Springett, the Norwich City loanee. It's all very neat, it's all very tidy, but no end product at the moment for Derby.
It's all in front, isn't it, of the West Ham back line, though. Hasn't caused West Ham a problem in behind at all this evening. They've been very comfortable as the ball's given away by Knight.
It's possessed by Fornals, and here goes Benrahma down the left-hand side. David Moyes is urging his players forward, and Benrahma will stop and check and lay it back to Cresswell. Picks it up once more. Benrahma almost slips down the left and pulls it back to Cresswell once more. And for West Ham, it's about conserving energy now, conserving this 2-goal lead with 9 minutes to play, as we see a shot of Declan Rice sitting on the West Ham bench. And that's the positive as well. If you make 6 changes, as David Moyes did for this one, Chris, you don't have to bring the big guns on if you get the 2-goal lead, as they did early in the second half. And yes, he's travelled, but it's a rest for Rice.
Yeah, and Paqueta as well. It's sort of big players, albeit Paqueta's been a major disappointment since he's come to West Ham. High hopes for him, but they're on the bench if things were getting a little bit hairy for David Moyes. That hasn't happened, though. It's been all too easy, really, for them, or all not easy, all too comfortable. I think Derby have put them under pressure, but second half, that second goal, and Derby haven't looked like scoring, and that's been their biggest issue.
8 minutes to play, West Ham comfortable, leading by 2-0. Out to the right-hand side they go, and Mbama, who shows some nifty footwork, the 18-year-old, and is then unceremoniously upended, and West Ham have a free kick just inside the Derby half.
Yeah, good play from the young man, getting his body in, drawing the free kick.
West Ham spread the play out to the left-hand side, and Cresswell just a little bit too much on there, but Fornals did well initially to keep it in. The flag's gone up, though, as he races down to the byline, and it will be a throw to Derby deep in their own territory. So, looks as though for West Ham it will be 1 defeat in the last 5 in all competitions. That was the 1-0 loss at relegation rivals Wolves. How much can we read from this match, Chris, in terms of whether they are turning that corner?
Nothing. I don't think anything. This is a game which, as you see the ball from Souček to not far off, but I think the expectation was that they would come here and be too strong for Derby County. I still think they're striving for performance levels this season. They haven't been there. The performances, the results haven't been there. There's a chance for some of the fringe players to maybe stake a case for a regular start, but I'm not so sure too many have done themselves a big favour. The likes of Souček, Downs, they've not been great. I think it's been very comfortable for those 3 central defenders. They've worked well as a unit this evening.
Under a bit of pressure here inside their own penalty area, but Aged sends it out to the left-hand side, and the ball is cleared over halfway. Paul Warne applauding in his black and grey bobble hat, standing with his arms folded on the edge of his technical area. What will he take from this performance as Derby turn their attentions once more to trying to win promotion back to the Championship?
Well, I think there's been a lot of endeavour, a lot of heart and desire, and they competed and worked hard to try and nullify superior opposition, but frankly in the final third they've been really poor in terms of the link-up. But maybe they can create something now.
Coming forward down the left-hand side, here is Roberts, plays the ball in, and it's claimed well again by Areola, who was under pressure from Collins. It's the combination of Areola's commanded that 6-yard area very well aerially, but all those balls have just been a little bit too high for James Collins, haven't they?
I mean, look, he's had very little service.
West Ham with the player down, Derby playing on. Here is Dobbin inside the area, drives it straight at Areola. Well, he's not averse to taking the shot on Lewis Dobbin, as referee Thomas Bramall just says that we're not going to restart play, as West Ham might need a little bit of treatment given here for Benrahma. Manuel Lanzini is preparing to come on. He's not played since before the World Cup.
Fornells, won't it, who comes off. I thought it was a foul on Benrahma. I think it was Corey Smith who took the ball off him, but I thought he fouled him in the process. I've got to say, Dobbin, I've been impressed with him. Just in that wide area on the right-hand side, shifting the ball, getting a shot off. I think, would that be the first shot on target for Derby? 85th minute?
I think you could be right. Yep, on loan from Everton, Lewis Dobbin. 20 years old, has played a few times for Everton, including in the Premier League. And there's 3 goals for Derby, including a brilliant volley against Torquay earlier in this competition. Superb technique from 20 yards, and you can see that, though he's young, that Premier League quality already starting to glimmer through in his substitute performance. But Derby still trail by 2-0, and here is that change. Fornells is coming off, and Manuel Lanzini is coming on for West Ham. So David Moyes very much using the squad now and giving minutes to players that have really struggled for them this season.
Fornells coming off, takes his gloves off. He's been in and out of the game this evening, Fornells, and this is really Derby's last opportunity. They need to get a goal now.
Well, late goals, even though they haven't looked like scoring this evening, they have found them this campaign. They send it up towards the edge of the penalty area. West Ham get the first contact, but it's a poor ball out to this right-hand side. Dobbin no chance to get anywhere near that from Knight, and it goes out of play for a West Ham throw. And West Ham look as though they're easing through to the 5th round. But Chris Sutton, we said it at the start of this second half, Derby do never know when they're beaten. But we need to see more from them if we're to have real hope of a comeback here.
Yep, they haven't done enough. It only takes one moment. They haven't done enough, anywhere near in the final third. Just lacking that real confidence and belief against Premier League opposition. Albeit Dobbin has made a decent impression on this right-hand side. We haven't seen much from Springett, the Norwich City loanee.
They're putting the pressure on now, just outside the West Ham penalty area, and it pays off because, again, miscontrols, out of play for a Derby throw. Taken quickly by James Collins. Into the final 2 minutes plus added time. Derby need 2 goals. Well, they're going out, and West Ham are going through to face Manchester United at Old Trafford in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Here is Rooney, cousin of Wayne Rooney, out to the right-hand side, and Dobbin driving towards the West Ham penalty area, but the ball back in to him from Smith was poor, and Lanzini intercepts, and here is Mubama over the halfway line, tried the crossfield pass, looking for the run that Benrahma had made, but will be intercepted and brought forward by Liam Thompson for Derby. Over the halfway line he goes, stood up by Flynn Downs, so goes left and finds Hayden Roberts, and back in field to Thompson once more. Crossfield pass out to Jake Rooney on this right-hand side. Closed down by Cresswell, so Rooney opts for Knight, and now in field to Dobbin, who's taken up that central position, but he just overran it. And frustration is just starting to creep in for the Derby fans, but overall this won't dampen the mood of the season around Pride Park. The unbeaten run, though, is coming to an end unless they can find the late fight back as Collins plays the ball in. Roberts was up there, blocked away by Kehrer and cleared away by Ben Johnson. Again, Chris, it's half a chance.
Yeah, half a chance. I mean, Collins, it's a brilliant ball in from the right-hand side near the touchline. That's the sort of service which he would relish, being the striker throughout his career who's thrived off crosses, but Roberts couldn't make the most of that effort and headed it into, I think it was Kehrer's back, and the chance gone. But that's barely a chance.
Yeah, it's been slim pickings, and you do wonder if they'd had top scorer David McGoldrick available, whether they might have given West Ham a bit more of a test as they put in from Smith. Clears the ball away. And we enter 3 minutes of added time. West Ham leading by 2-0, heading through to the 5th round. The ball is steered back by Aguerd to Areola. And the travelling support in fine voice. In the end, their team look as though they've got the job done, and Chris, if they see out these final 3 minutes as they look like they're going to do, it has been very comfortable.
Yep, very comfortable, and a trip to Manchester Interesting one. Who would you make favourite in that, Vicky?
It's one for the Football Daily. Download from BBC Sounds, a ball over the top. West Ham looking for this third goal to kill off the tie, but Ben Rama flagged just offside. Good movement though.
Yeah, and actually it's a really lovely pass from Lanzini, laser-like pass from Lanzini. Ben Rama who'd made a run from right to left, but just had drifted offside.
Jake Rooney almost gives the ball away. West Ham can't take advantage, and Derby in possession on the halfway line. Here they come forward once more with Knight out to the right-hand side, and Rooney looking to cut and field past Cresswell, plays it to Dobbin, edge of the area, might work room for the shot, lays it off instead to Thompson, out to the left he goes, and Roberts. Can Derby get a shot in on goal? They get the ball in, it's not a good one from Roberts, it's cleared away. Urged to shoot is Dobbin from 25 yards, but he's well closed down by Lanzini. A minute of added time left to play, and West Ham are going to Wembley according to the travelling support, as Ogbonna clears the ball away with his head inside the area. Well, they are going through to the fifth round. They are going to Old Trafford, and a very informed Manchester United. On the halfway line, West Ham pick it up with Cresswell. Plays it back in the centre of the park to Souček, and now out to the left. And Cresswell once again, as David Moyes stands, hands in his pockets, a satisfactory evening's work, particularly the early goal in the second half from Antonio that has just killed this game off. As West Ham pick up possession just outside the penalty area, rolled forward by Lanzini and picked up on the left-hand side. Cresswell is there as an option and picks up the ball now. A little 1-2 with Ben Rama, but ball adjudged to have gone out of play. And Derby have a throw, and Chris Sutton, 20 seconds to play.
Yeah.
Game's up.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my first game I ever went to, actually, when West Ham. It was 82, was it? It was 82. Vicky, you should know things. The Trevor
I can't
Brooking
remember
header.
82. I was -5.
Yeah, I must have been 9 then. That's the first game my dad ever took me to. The Trevor Brooking header, where he stooped to head it in. I don't know why. I wasn't a West Ham fan. There we go.
For West Ham fans, wherever you're listening to us, you are through to the fifth round of the FA Cup. 2-0 winners over League One Derby County, whose long unbeaten run comes to an end. Early goals in both halves. The first from Bowen, the second from Antonio. And Chris Sutton, comfortable is probably the best word to sum it up.
Yes, absolutely. I think David Moyes will be delighted with the result, and tough trip to Old Trafford. I thought they were better second half. The second goal from Antonio really did kill the game. Plenty of effort and endeavour from Derby, who didn't do enough in the final third, but ultimately, looking at this game, I thought it was always going to be difficult for West Ham, and David Moyes will be absolutely made up that they are through, and they're building a little bit of momentum now. They go to Newcastle at the weekend, and they'll take a bit of confidence from that performance. But of course, David Moyes able to rest some of his big guns as well. So the perfect night for David Moyes and West Ham.
Yeah, one defeat in their last 5 now for West Ham. Are they starting to turn that corner? They're through in the FA Cup. It finishes at Pride Park. Derby 0, West Ham 2.